Hi there. Thanks for registering your interest to participate in the Blue Mountain Flyover. The fact you've now received this information and the link to this video means that you are now authorised to successful entry to participate in it. Now, this has been a long time in the planning, this event. It's a fairly historic event for two reasons. It's celebrating the 200th anniversary of the first crossing by settlers of the Blue Mountains, but also this event is being deemed an air display. So that means that every single person, every pilot participating is effectively display pilot. So we have to treat this like it's an air show, and there are a lot of participants in this air show. So hence why the paperwork and the briefings are so important to us. Now, this video itself, we've been working with CASA of how to avoid having a face-to-face briefing, because you can imagine with up to 100 aircraft and pilots participating, that would actually add to the complexity and probably the dangers of it. So we're now using this video briefing system to avoid the face-to-face requirement. So it's important that you watch this whole video and you understand it. Now, at the completion of this video, go through all the packs we've sent you. It's basically reinforces everything that's on this video. And once you're happy with the content of the video and the packs, look at the waiver, make sure you understand your requirements as both a pilot and for the aircraft on the day, sign it, and then send it back to me via either email or postal address, which is on the waiver, and include a copy of your insurance. We need that by the 15th of May, so that we've then got 10 days to make sure everything is squeaky clean, and we'll go ahead and have a successful event. As a quick overview of what's going to occur, on Saturday the 25th of May, the day will start with some skydivers jumping into some prominent features, ovals along the Blue Mountains at about between 10:30 and 11. Between 11 and 11:30, we'll have the roulettes fly the route doing displays along the route. We'll have a C-130J Hercules fly the route at low level with some orbits along the way. And then between 11:30 and 1 p.m, we're going to have the civil fly past. And that's what this whole brief with you guys is all about. It's going to involve going through separate holding points on different frequencies in the Sydney Basin, be allocated a time and an altitude to commence your route so that everybody is separated by both time and altitude. You'll fly the route, which basically goes from Penrith through to Mount York following the Great Western Highway at an allocated altitude band or level, and then once you get to Mount York you'll be turning west, flying through to a place called O'Connell, which is about 8 miles southeast of Bathurst Airfield. At the completion of overflight of O'Connell, you've actually now finished the formal event, but Bathurst Aero Club has invited all participants to land at Bathurst for a barbecue post flyover. So it should be a fairly good event. It should flying time somewhere between 20 minutes and 50 minutes depending upon your speed from Penrith through to O'Connell. And at the end of it, a great place to do with all aviators love, land, talk about how cool you were on that flight. So let's talk about the route. First of all, the route should be flown generally plus or minus 1 mile either side of the main route. Now the main route is effectively the Great Western Highway all the way up until you're approaching Mount Victoria through to Mount York, and then it's really just flying directly to the GPS waypoints, which still have visual features. Now, it's not a race, okay? It's a VFR NavX, flown within your normal aircraft parameters and visually along the road. We're using the points really as markers for when to change altitude, so we all do it at the same time. Now, along the route, there's lots of viewing points. We're not actually telling all the pilots, we're not holding it from you. We're not advertising specifically where those points are, just so that you don't have to worry about trying to get to the viewing locations. If you follow this route that I'm about to go through, you will pass every viewing location at the correct position. Now, what you have in these packs, first of all, you have the route planning data, which effectively starts off at the top here with all of the 11 waypoints plus north entry, north hold, south entry, south hold. You have the coordinates, the elevation of those positions, and a description of what they are visually, plus some extra information of what you need to do at each point. Now, there's a generic Google Earth picture showing all the points roughly where the route is going, and then there's also this planning card that you can fill in and have on your knee board, which allows you to have all the details you personally need for either plan A, B or C, from which entry point you're going through and what frequency you're using at what time, and then all the way through to which route you're planning to fly in colour, and what altitudes you need to be at each single waypoint. We'll cover altitudes in a moment. Now, let's look specifically at the points themselves. Now, in the turn point graphics, this is really just a print. You can print this out or keep it on your iPad or however you want to do it, showing the exact visual features you're looking for. So I'll just run through them now. The north entry, okay, it's two very large sheds just north of the golf course here, and it's a right-hand turn. Now, I'll talk about airspace in a moment, but don't go any further north than this distinct row of sheds, which is about 2 nautical miles north of the point itself. We then looking at flowing through from that point to the North Hold, which is the eastern end of the large rowing lake just north of Penrith. Once again, a right-hand turn to hold, and going no further north than this section of intersection here, which is about 1.5 miles north of the northern hold point. If you're coming in through the south side, the south entry is this distinctive round dam here, just basically looking to be right up on the edge of the hills, and then once again all holds are a right-hand hold. From there you'll progress from the south entry to the south hold, which is the last major interchange on the freeway before it crosses the river here, okay, and that's the main road that goes up into Penrith, Lees Clubs, etc. Once again, a right-hand hold at that point. From either the north hold or the south hold, the start of the route is the Penrith Bridge here. So don't confuse it with the motorway bridge down here. It's a combined rail and road bridge just before the river starts to do this jink here. So if you're coming from the north, it's going to be coming out of your hold either way, or direct from the northern entry to overfly the bridge here. From the south, just give yourself a little bit of room, overfly the Penrith Leagues Club, left-hand turn, and then you're overhead Penrith and you're commencing the route. Moving up into to Glenbrook Oval, basically following the route here. Don't try and, this is the only point we're not following the road within a mile here, just fly directly over here. I'm going to be seated here with my team at RAF Base Glenbrook with a great view of everyone flying directly over the top, and you're just looking to fly past Glenbrook Oval here, and this is our first point we need to be considering our altitude management, and we're just going to follow the road around the corner. We then move to up to Springwood, so we're going to be following the general flow of the road. And the visual feature is this large shed here, but we're going to continue after we're over that, up and around to follow the road and rail down here. Coming down into Woodford, once again, it's just the train station, once again following down all the way around through here, up to Hazelbrook, continuing up along the road, a little bit of a lake area, like a small dam, and then, as I say, continuing to follow the road. Wentworth Falls, we're actually going to fly up probably close to the railway line, over the large dam for our next altitude management point, and then once again picking up the road and railway line. If these turns get a little bit too tight, which I expect they will, just follow roughly, that within 1 nautical mile, overfly the big Carrington chimney, which is the great big point out there, the big chimney, and then off to the right. Fantastic views down to the south here. Just take a moment to really enjoy what you're doing at that point. Following it up through Blackheath, overhead once again the railway station in downtown Blackheath. Continuing up, you'll be following the Great Western Highway until you pass the township of Mount Victoria, and then following the spur line out to Mount York itself. From Mount York, it's pretty much a straight line that you'll be overflying Mount Blaxland, and then finishing up by overflying O'Connell, the big circle on the ground at O'Connell, and that is it. Okay, so let's talk about the altitude management of it. First of all, we asked you what category you were, and that's just so I get an idea of the speed range you'll be flying, because obviously I want to make sure I haven't got a really fast aircraft up behind a really slow aircraft. I'm going to use that in the planning phase. It doesn't really matter to you anymore, because all I'm going to tell you is an altitude to expect or to arrive at your holding point. I'll also be telling you in the planning, plan A, B or C, what colour route you'll be plan to fly each time as well. Now, as far as what this graph means to you, a point is a specific altitude, as is a line. a block is a cruising block. So you can see here for the red it's cruising between 2,100 and 2,400, which gives you a little bit more flexibility to be able to climb at your own leisure, to cruise at your own leisure inside that block. So what will basically occur? You'll be allocated your altitude to be at the hold, and then just before you commence the route, we'll give you a colour level to fly. So for example, if we say you're cleared into the route in the orange level, that means as you overfly Penrith, we'll expect you to be at 2,500 feet. After you've crossed Penrith, you'll then climb to between 2,600 and 2,900 feet, and you'll cruise in that band, or climb as the case may be, continuously, so that as you overfly Glenbrook Oval, you're at 3,000 feet. And this is why we've chosen visually significant features for you to recognise you're over it, plus recommended having them in your GPS so you know how far you've got to run to be at that altitude. Once you've crossed Glenbrook Oval, you then climb to 3,100 and cruise between 3,100 and 3,400, but plan to be overflying Springwood, the big shed, at 3,500. As soon as you pass Springwood, climb to 3,600, cruise 3,600 to 3,900, and so on, and continue doing this all the way until you get to Katoomba. This is the highest point. So at Katoomba, you're now maintaining 5,500, and you fly at 5,500 along, overfly Blackheath, overfly Mount York, and as soon as you pass Mount York, descend now 100 feet to 5,400 and cruise between 5,100 and 5,400 to overfly Mount Blaxland at 5,000, and then drop straight back down again to cruise now to between 4.6 and 4.9, off to O'Connell. Then as you hit O'Connell, hit that at 4,500, and then maintain 4,500 for the next minute or so as you either head to Bathurst or your departure altitude, just so you make sure you don't descend straight onto somebody that's below you. So just looking at Airspace now, the whole thing is flown in Class G airspace. You can see the altitudes coming up, 12455, and then basically flowing all the way through into O'Connell on the VNC here, and there's Bathurst there. Looking at a VTC for Sydney, just so we know where we're going. From the south entry, everything's fine. You're nice and clear of everything in these right-hand orbits out here. For the north entry, just be aware of the airspace here at 2,500. So if you're being held above 2,500, just make sure you clear this airspace before you climb to your hold point here. Now we're very close to Richmond airspace. Richmond are putting a corridor for the southern 3 miles that participants are allowed to enter without getting a clearance. Now to give us the buffer, we're only going to use 1 mile of that, so we've still got 2 miles of buffer until their boundary, and hence the importance of those visual features that I gave you in the diagrams of the actual points themselves. So you'll be clear to come up here, do your right-hand turn, go inside the airspace here if you desire, but just avoid going more than about 2 miles north of the point itself, which should be an easy turn for everybody that's involved in these areas. Lastly, as we come up here, if you're staying within 1 mile of the route here, you've got plenty of room, but just to make sure that there's no fear of getting an infringement notice, once again, Richmond are opening 3 miles here, so you can still go another mile further north, which is up in the middle of no man's land, which is where you really don't want to be anyway, but it just means that you feel fine that you can actually fly to the north of the route here, and you're still well clear of Richmond airspace. So, as you now understand, there's 4 levels that are planned to be flown. Now, if all 4 levels can be flown, because the cloud base is nice and high, we're going to go with a certain timing plan that allows everybody to be sequenced in those 4 levels, and they're going to be sequenced on a pre-planned time, which we're going to call Plan Alpha. Now, if the cloud base is too low to fly that top route, we'll go to Plan Bravo, which is going to have everyone being allocated into the lower 3 levels, and that'll be called Plan Bravo. If the weather drops down even further, and we've only got the 2 levels, the 2 lower levels to fly, we'll go to Plan Charlie, which now means everybody has to fit through those 2 levels. Now, everyone's going to be deconflicted, still in time and altitude, and airspeed will now become more of a factor as we start compressing all these different speeds into these corridors. I'm going to email everybody these plans, Alpha, Bravo and Charlie, with about 1 week to run, along with a contact list of who you should call on the day, depending upon if you're going in through a north entry or a south entry, if you have any questions. Now what's going to happen on the day is everybody needs to be ready to fly either plan Alpha, Bravo or Charlie. At about 9 o'clock we're going to nominate the plan based on the forecast, and we're going to text message everybody to tell them which plan it is. Just before 10 o'clock I'm actually going to fly the route quickly and confirm that our plan is valid. If I find that a change is needed because the weather is a little bit lower or it's much better than the forecast was, I'll radio our team and they will then reallocate the plan via text message. That will all occur before 10:30. So if at 10:30, if you're in any doubt about what plan to fly, call your allocated person based on whether you're going through a north entry or a south entry or the general number. Now, all that leaves then is you've just got to make sure that you organise yourself with a good time hack based on GPS time, and you fly yourself as per a normal NavX from your departure airfield to arrive at either the north entry or the south entry at your allocated time and your allocated height, and call us when you're there. Aim to be plus or minus a minute as you get to that point. If you're a little bit early, slow down, hold. If you're a little bit late, just try and make it up as best as possible and we'll fit you in. So let's talk about how everybody's going to get through the holds with the communication required. The plan is for somebody to be departing overhead the bridge every 3 minutes at every 500 foot altitude. So the plan will be every 6 minutes somebody comes through the north entry, 3 minutes later somebody comes through here, 3 minutes later somebody comes through here. So we're just continuously moving backwards and forwards between holds. So we've got 6 minutes between players at the same altitude at each different hold. Now, when you're within 2 miles of your entry point, you've done your own navigation, you've maintained clear of airspace, you're now at 2,500, running into the north entry, 2 miles away, contact the appropriate frequency for either north entry or south entry, and state, fly past Unicom, Alpha Bravo Charlie is approaching the north entry at 2,500. We'll respond with a couple of options. It'll be Alpha Bravo Charlie, proceed to the north hold at 2,500, QNH 1013, or we'll say Alpha Bravo Charlie, maintain the north entry, 2,500, QNH 1013. Okay, and you just follow our guidance there. Just respond with your call sign and read back the QNH for us. Now this is where we'll be maintaining that no more than 1 mile into the Richmond airspace. When we are happy that the route is clear for you to fly, that you're separated by greater than a minimum of 1 minute, if the visibility is a bit lower, 2 minutes, but typically 3 minutes separation from the aircraft preceding you, we will then say, Alpha Bravo Charlie, you are cleared for the yellow level at time 35. You just have to read back Alpha Bravo Charlie and now plan your route, whether you do another orbit or whether you then start proceeding down range from here to arrive overhead the bridge at time 35 at the commencement height of the yellow level. When you're overhead Penrith, just give us a call, Alpha Bravo Charlie, Penrith. At that point, switch to 12455 and maintain a listening watch on area frequency as you commence the route. Now, some considerations in regard to the whole plan. First of all, the weather. Now, this is a VFR event. You're following the road VFR. You've got some points that are based on how to manage your altitude, but you need to be able to see the ground and maintain normal VMC criteria. Now, if you can't maintain VMC, you'll need to follow the route abort procedures, which are covered in the emergency section in a moment. Now, if there is some puffies around, some minor cloud, don't climb or descend to go past the clouds because you'll enter somebody else's level that you may be not aware of. You can only avoid clouds by moving laterally left and right and try and remain within 3 miles of the road. Otherwise, you're going to be outside the confines of it. Not a dangerous thing, but it just means that you've actually left the plan. Now, there's going to be lots of aircraft, obviously, so the key here is to maintain a good lookout. So hence why I've continued to say it's a VFR event. Follow the road, keep your eyes out. Don't be following GPS waypoints. Keep them for SA, situational awareness, on where you are and what height you should be at. Okay, but make sure you're staying eyes out. Follow the route and fly at your allocated altitude, and therefore the only person you really need to worry about is the aircraft that's in front of you. Use normal rules of the air, and If you need to change direction or abort the route, don't turn around, don't orbit, and don't fly back down the route the reverse direction. It's 3 miles wide, so get yourself off the route before you do anything. If you're returning to Sydney, make sure you avoid the route by 3 nautical miles because there are a lot of aircraft. And once you've completed the route over O'Connell, maintain your last allocated altitude for at least a couple of minutes, because once again there might be people all around you at different heights, and you just want them to naturally disperse on slightly different headings before you go and start doing altitude changes. If you are going into Bathurst, just be aware you're only about 8 miles from Bathurst, so change to Bathurst CTAF frequency prior to getting to O'Connell, so start getting awareness of what's going on there. Now, it's normal procedures going into Bathurst, but there could be some heavy traffic, so just be aware of looking out and talking on the radio as per normal operations. Bathurst has got a slight hill on it. For coming into land, it shouldn't be a problem, but for the ground ops later, just be aware that if you're on the main runway at either threshold, you can't see the other threshold. Once you've landed, vacate the active runway as soon as possible to allow other aircraft to land behind you, and then taxi back to the main apron area. Now, there'll be marshallers there from the Bathurst Aero Club, and they'll be parking people either in front of the Aero Club on the grass near the main windsock, or on the south of that, down near the BP fueling stand. Now, we have fuel at either the Aero Club Bowser, at the BP Bowser, and we also have Sky Fuel turning up with a tanker that can cater for people if they just want to park and get the refueling on site there. If you're planning to fly into formation, you have to have let me know before this occurs, because I need to allocate you as a formation, and you have to be formation rated, obviously. Otherwise, I will maintain the 3-minute separation between individual aircraft. We are not maintaining a SAR for everybody, but we are maintaining a log of what's going on. So if there's any questions from concerned relatives or friends about what's going on, they can call us, provide them the numbers that we've provided you, and we'll be able to say, hey, he left at this time, or it didn't turn up at all, whatever, but we're not going to individually phone or make sure that everybody has landed, okay? So it's a normal maintenance of SAR on your behalf on that side of things. If we're getting overrun in the hold because either there's been a lot of aircraft turn up late, or we've been delayed, or we've got behind, if we find that all of our holding points are getting stacked up and full, we're going to nominate what's called a Rolex, okay? And that's a 15-minute Rolex, which means everyone needs to add 15 minutes from the original times, and we'll send out mass text messages. We'll broadcast on 12455 that there's a Blue Mountain Flyover 5-minute Rolex. So if you're not already in the hold, just delay arriving at the entry point for 15 minutes. So go for a fly along the coast, sit on the ground and wait, just to add 15 minutes. If we then come back and say there's a 30-minute Rolex, it's always based on the original time, okay? So don't add 30 and 15, just add 30 to the original time. Lastly, for the considerations is insurance. Now, QBE has basically said they'll top up every single pilot and aircraft to the $10 million requirement from the event organisers. So all you have to do is we need to make sure we've got every aircraft insurance paperwork, so the event organisers are happy that if anything goes wrong, everything's covered, as you can imagine. And if anyone is below that $10 million, it's not a problem, because QBE are going to put a blanket cover on everybody regardless. So they're not going to be individual policies. It's going to be for every aircraft participating. So long as we have a currency certificate from any insurance agency, they are now covered for this event for $10 million. So just get your insurance to us. It doesn't matter what the value is at all. It doesn't matter if you're an ultralight, a gyrocopter, a helicopter, a jet warbird. It's all covered. Okay, we're just going to quickly run through emergencies now. If you have a radio failure before you get to the hold, just abort the flight, go back to land at a suitable airfield. Same if you end up in the hold, squawk 7600 and depart. Land at a suitable airfield, and just give us a phone call when you're on the ground just to let us know what happened, because you just didn't turn up. If it happens en route, continue with the route, because you already have a clearance to be doing what you're doing. If we have a radio failure, we have 2 radios, so we'll start transmitting on controlling the event through one frequency. We'll get notification out by SMS and via our Sydney Centre on 12455. And let everybody know that if you turn up in the hold and can't raise us, talk to another aircraft. And if you can't talk to another aircraft, it's probably you. If you can talk to other aircraft, go to the backup frequency and have a chat to us on that. If you have partial or total engine failures out there, first of all, make sure that you are very comfortable with the mechanical reliability of your aircraft, because you are flying over Tiger Country. Now, if you need to leave the route, recommend leaving to the south, and then if it's pre-Katoomba, heading back to the southeast will get you descending in the down through Warragamba Dam, etc. If you're past Katoomba, continuing out to the southwest will get you to the lowest terrain earliest. Now, there's going to be a lot of people and equipment on the ground along the route, so don't plan to try and do a forced landing on a road or a park, because they're generally going to be full on a Saturday morning. Look for a cleared area, but expect to damage the aircraft while doing a survivable forced landing by trying to use the wings on trees, etc., to decelerate yourself. Now, there'll be plenty of help there, because we've got everyone's aware of what's going on. There'll be people straight away out there to help you. If you need to divert or route abort, always be thinking turn left. Okay, turn left and head southeast or southwest. Get outside of 3 nautical miles. Don't orbit, don't turn around and go 180 out, and try not to climb or descend while you're in the route. Once you're clear of the route, then you can, as I said, go down to the southeast towards Warragamba, or out to the west will be clear flat land. If you're unable to maintain VMC in your route, divert left and right of track. Don't climb or descend, because you're going to other people's levels. If the visibility or cloud is stopping you from continuing and maintaining VMC, turn left, head off the track, and contact Sydney Centre and just say Alpha Bravo Charlie on the Blue Mountain track at 6,500, unable to maintain VMC and diverting northeast southwest. Don't expect them to give you any sort of clearance or anything, but if we get a number of these happening, they'll then contact me and say, hey Matt, everyone on the blue route is aborting. I will then close the blue route. If you hear this from somebody in front of you, be ready to take action when you get to that same location on the blue route, but also remember, the cloud or the visibility may have changed by the time you get there. If you require emergency assistance, or you witness something that requires emergency assistance, normal airmanship, stay, help out, relay on the radio, but don't do it directly overhead the route. So try and move yourself 3 miles either north or south of the route, and then orbit, and try and pick an altitude that's not at a block cruising level. Now, we only normally get to either a round number of 3,500 or 4,000 momentarily over a point, and everyone's cruising between these. So that's generally going to be an altitude that's the safest for deconfliction. Now, if there's an event, knock it off. Basically, something major has gone wrong. We've decided to knock the whole thing off. You'll hear us say Unicom knock it off, and we'll repeat that 3 times. We'll also relay that through Sydney Centre and radar for everybody to stop. Now, if you're on the route, continue with the direction you're going, but just be aware there may be something down route that's a factor, that there could be emergency services, etc. being called. So just continue with what you're doing, because that's the best thing. If you haven't commenced the route yet, basically head on back to your point of where you want to go, but just leave the area because something generally bad has occurred. Now, if there's a mid-air collision, unwanted, obviously, but just some points to consider if you're in the mid-air collision of what to do in that point. All mid-airs should be avoided purely by, we've got good deconfliction plans in place, and just making sure that you're looking out the window and flying the correct altitude and the correct route at all times. Lastly, navigation issues. You're lost. We've all been there. I've been there. It's just something that occurs with aviation sometimes. This track is actually quite simple to follow. Just make sure that if you become unaware of what altitude you should be at, fly generically that, hey, I'm at the yellow. That means I should be about between 2 and 2,500 feet AGL. Visually assess how high you are until you can establish exactly where you are again. Don't orbit to find out where you are. If you're completely lost, no idea, just keep heading west until you clear the Blue Mountains. Don't overfly any major roads or towns, because that probably is the route, and you might be re-engaging the route at some point that's not desired, and just get yourself clear of the Blue Mountains, then contact the local centre frequency and ask them to assist. So that's it. Been through the brief. What next? First, if you have any questions, run through the video again, read the paperwork, send us an email, joyflights@matthallracing.com, and we'll answer it as best as possible. Send the signed waiver and your insurance paperwork through to us, either at the address on the waiver or scan and email back to joyflights@matthallracing. If there's any major or minor changes to the plan, we'll be in touch by either email, phone or text message. Expect a timing sheet with plans A, B and C and the contact list for the appropriate person, if North Entry, South Entry and generic contact number for the day. Expect to receive all that 1 week prior to the event. And then all that's required then is just be ready on Saturday morning to receive the allocation of the plan, hit your timing window for plus or minus a minute at your entry point at your allocated level. Contact us on the radio and we'll send you up the chute, land at Bathurst and have a barbecue with the lovely people at the Bathurst Aero Club. Looking forward to this event. Cheers.